So the last time that I was speaking live, I was talking about emotional emotional intelligence. But right now, I want to talk about emotional mastery. But it's just basically to touch base on the things that we spoke about. So let me just refresh my mind here. Because last time I actually wrote everything down, but this time I didn't. Because I just wanted to go over the emotional intelligence portion of it. But this is emotional mastery. So it's just the same, but it's very different. But this is the emphasis of it. So the last time I was talking about guard your heart with all diligence. From thereof, keep your heart with all diligence, from out of it are the issues of life. So that's the theme for this moment, which is to keep your heart with all diligence. And the diligence of the keeping of the heart is the way to be an emotional master. So the emotions, the word emotion is the E, which starts words like energy, the E, which starts words like eternal, and motion. So all of the motion comes through your emotions. In other words, whatever the body does happens because of the motions of the body, the physical motions in the substance happen because of the emotional essence in the motion. So all of the actions, whether or not a person understands this, all of the actions that a person ever does, they're all part of this motion, this movement, this momentum. So this emotional basis of it is how we have to guard our heart. So when you guard your heart, it's you knowing that all of the actions that flow from the heart, all of the actions that flow from the heart, they're based on this motion. That's how out of the heart flows the abundance. From the abundance, it flows. There's a motion. This motion is also this flow. Like it says, the heart of the king is in the hand of God. He turns it each way. The four chambers of the heart. There are four angels around the throne, and there were four rivers in the Garden of Eden. These rivers are provision. These rivers are substance. These rivers are growth. These rivers are nourishment. These rivers are nurture. These rivers are nature. But this is the flow of the river. So these are the four, like, parts of the heart. This is the river that is flowing to nourish your heart, right? So there's a certain emotional mastery that Solomon had. And in the live video, I went on for quite a while because I was expressing a lot of the details. So here I'm just sort of breaking them down, right? Here I'm just breaking down those details so that they can be more manageable. Okay. So here I'm just breaking down those excuse me. Okay, pardon that. So I was going over the different states of motion or the different states of emotions. So we all have different emotions, and the dominant emotion that we have to master, which is the title of this live stream, which is uh, emotional mastery. And what we have to master is the emotion of, they call it charity. And then it's also known as love. So this emotion of love, this emotion of charity, I'm just going to read it first. Okay. In fact, I'm just going to share my screen here. So, though I speak in the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become as sounding of brass or tinkling cymbal. Though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profits me nothing. Charity suffers long, and is kind. Charity envies not. Charity vaunts not itself, is not puffed up, does not behave itself unseemly, seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, that's a tough one, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Charity never fails. But whether they be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether they be tongues, they shall cease. Whether they be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as I am known. And now abides faith, hope, and charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. And then I really like this. Follow after charity again, and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that you may prophesy. Okay. So before I switch the screen back, I just want to highlight this. Though I have prophecy, right? And then it goes on to say you should prophesy nonetheless. Even understand all mysteries. Though I have all faith, I can move mountains. And here, though I bestow my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, profits nothing. Okay. So that's the description of charity as it's been expressed. So it's speaking about how someone would hear the word charity and think of being charitable, which is to literally bestow your goods to the people and to give yourself. But then this is not what charity is. It speaks about it as it's not even if you do that, but you don't have what they call charity. And even if you prophesy and you say, I'm doing this for the kingdom, you make a church, you do everything, and you say that I'm doing this to be charitable. This is not the actual love that is being spoken about, but it has this description of these attributes. This is what emotional mastery is talking about. The emotional mastery is being able to do all of those things, to master all of those things, because there's nothing greater than this charity. There's nothing greater than this emotion. And here, when we speak of love or when we speak of charity, it's often translated as as the emotion of love, but we know that the charity, the word itself. So the word itself. Let me go to the dictionary. But I know. All right, let me go to the dictionary. This is not the etymological dictionary. It's just an ordinary dictionary. The etymological dictionary will tell the roots of the words. So that's what we're gonna go to. What is charity? Charity. So it's gonna tell us the definition of charity, right? And here it has like a small etymology. Is it gonna show it? So here in the etymology, I'm trying to focus it. But here in the etymology, it just has the French basis of the word. All right. But here it says it's an organization, the objective of which is to carry out a charitable purpose. And then it says goods or money given to those in need, benevolence to others less fortunate than ourselves, providing goods or money to those in need, an attitude of kindness and understanding towards others, now especially suggesting generosity. And then here it says Christian love, representing God's love of man, man's love of God, or man's love of his fellow man. Charity suffers long, is kind. Charity envies not. Charity vaunts not itself. So, vaunts not itself is to say it is not something that is in love with itself. Vaunt. Okay. Vaunt. Let me just go and look at that word. Vaunt, VAUNT. So to speak boastfully about, to boast, display, ostentation. All right, that's to vaunt. So it doesn't do that. Okay, so it suffers long, is kind, envies not, vaunts not itself, is not puffed up, does not behave itself unseemly, seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil. Okay, so that's the word charity in the Bible. So so here the word charity is expressed as that, right? And now this passage that I just read, it goes on to say, even though we know in part, right? Even though we know in part, we speak in part, we prophesy in part, and then one day we shall be fully known, right? And then it goes on to say, for now we see through a glass darkly. Okay, let me show you the part again. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know as I am fully known. Right. So, so that part is speaking about this state of sight, like to see, like we'll see through a glass. We'll see through a glass. So this charity that is being spoken about is a form of clarity that is being expressed in this glass, to see through this glass. So this charity is actually clarity. So this clarity gives us all of these powers, which is to say, it says that it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Charity never fails. But whether they be prophecies or this or this or that, those things will fail because we know in part. We only know one part, as it is on earth, so it is in heaven. But we only know what is on earth because we're on earth. And then we just have this dark, a vague understanding of what is in heaven. So this is to know in part. And this is why we prophesy in part. We don't even know ourselves because here it says, like this passage, this verse itself is just something else. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face, right? Now I know in part, but then I shall know even as also I am known. So, so it's speaking about face to face. So what is fascinating about the reality of our knowledge is that we know in part. And one thing that actually identifies this the most is the fact that no person can see their own face. But then we can see a picture. Right now, I can see a video of my face. I can never see it like as it is. No one can. You can't. No one can. But we have to see a reflection of it, like in a dark glass. Like, and this is what it's saying. But then we'll be face to face. And what we're facing is the charge. So this is the etymology of the word charity, charity, this charge, this charred is burnt. And then this burnt is how we are purified. This burnt is how we praise. This is how we worship. This is when you see face to face what exactly was charging that emotion of love. When you said you were giving this, or when you said you were prophesying, what exactly was the charity? What exactly was the was like supercharging it? Because this is the most powerful power, which is what we're told. Like, I'll show you a greater way, because here this actually starts to speak. Like, let me show you the pages again here, right? So First Corinthians, right? So this is chapter 12, right? It starts here. It starts, now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. Then it goes on to talk about the spirits and everything, right? And then it comes here. So God has set some in the church, apostles, prophets, teachers, after that miracles, healings, governments, diverse tongue, are all prophets, are all apostles, are all teachers, are all workers of miracles, have all gifts of healing, do we all speak in tongues, do we all interpret? No, right? But covet earnestly the best gifts, the best gifts, and I will show you unto a more excellent way. And now it goes on to speak about the more excellent way, the best gift, which is charity, right? And then it goes on, like I've already read all of this, and then it talks about the face and the glass. And then it says, follow after charity and desire the spiritual gifts, but rather that you may prophesy, right? So so it speaks about all of the spiritual gifts, lines them all up, and then it says, but now you only have to focus on the best gifts. And then it goes on to say the best gift is charity. So this is the best gift because it's given charitably to everybody, right? And this is how we're supposed to actually give it out as well. As we are given charitably, we give it charitably, right? The same charge, the same power, because God is the Father of lights. So just like how, like, if you're gonna light a light or a candle with your light, it's not gonna diminish your light in any way. It's just gonna multiply the light, and that's how this charity works. So it speaks about the best gifts, and then it says charity is the best gift. And then it speaks about this power of prophecy, which people always think is like when you're a prophet, you've made it, right? Then it speaks about that, and then it says, yes, follow after charity, so that the prophecies be charged with charity when you see with the clarity of prophecy. So that's the best gift. And then it says, like, covet to prophesy, covet, covet, which is thou shalt not covet another man's wife, but you should covet to prophesy according to this. Like, this is why I like literally showed the page, because it says covet to prophesy, right? But now this charity will bring us face to face with what is in charge of the charity, or the clarity that we have. Charity is clarity, but that clarity is showing us, like, what exactly was the power behind anything that you were doing. In other words, what exactly is the emotion that is charging everything that you're doing? As I said in the beginning, the word emotion is E and the motion. So every motion or every act is from this motion, or from this emotion, from this charity. Everything on earth happens because of the charity of God. He has given it freely to everyone on earth, just like how he gave us the whole world freely. So this emotion is what is always like the movement. This motion, this emotion is always moving. So this motion is what charges everything with a certain power. This motion is what charges anything with a certain energy. So this energy is the emotion of love. So once we do everything with love, what happens is incredible. Okay. So here, this is as expressed as being the best gift. Okay. So here, now I want to talk about this part of this gift here. So it says, when I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. All right. So, so now it says like when he was a child. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, right? I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So this is emotional charge in everything, right? So the first thing to grasp is the fact that Jesus is like the kingdom belongs to the children. They can speak the language, understand it, and think in the same type of language as this emotion, as this power. They're very charitable in their thoughts. They're very charitable in their forgiveness. Like you can make a child so angry, and next minute they're playing, right? They're just charitable in their imagination. They have faith, hope, love of all of these three things, and the greatest is charity. Like who's more hopeful than a child? Who's more faithful than a child? You can tell a child anything and they'll believe it. But now it's saying that there's a certain point where the way we think as a child has got to be transformed. There's a certain charge, like a supercharged energy, that is charity. It takes charge. This is the charge, the light, right? So there's this energy that happens and it makes a whole transformation. But at the same time, we have to realize that emotionally, there's a certain thing that happens when people are young. Usually, or everyone has experiences when they're young, when they're still thinking, speaking, and acting like a child, when they're still in their most hopeful, when they're still in their most faithful and most charitable stage of development in human life. Everyone has a certain experience, and this experience carries on this charge, carries on this energy, right? And then this person, as every person cannot see their face, they carry on this energy, whether or not they see it or not, but then it's always being emitted, it's always being transmitted, it's always charging everything. So just like the analogy with that light, with that candle, when you're lighting this candle with this charity, with this charge, you're just using this energy that is taken from the emotions, from the emotional experiences that we have as children. And this is why the Bible says, when I was a child, I spake, understood, and thought. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And then it says, for now we see through a glass. So we gain a certain amount of clarity when we actually see through the things that happened, emotionally charging our energy, bringing us in this motion. So this motion creates certain patterns of thought and behavior. This motion, right? Because like everything, nothing is new under the sun. So that motion creates the same pattern, because nothing is new under the sun, right? So it creates this pattern, and it creates this pattern again and again and again and again, forming these emotional loops. So some people are now in a stage where they're experiencing like a feed forward positive loop, and some people are experiencing a negative feedback loop, which is just like taking them back, recurring problems, recurring issues. Like some people would look at maybe relationships, or maybe some people would look at their jobs, whatever they're doing. If you start something, you stop, or you start something and this certain thing always keeps happening. This is because of this clarity that you have to come face to face with, this reality or this charge that keeps on, this emotion that keeps this motion moving with this certain charge, and then it keeps on moving in this loop. So what it does, or what we're given with this verse, with this clarity of charity, is that we actually have the power to get out of that loop, whether it was from childhood, like it says here, whether it was from a misunderstanding, misspeaking, right? Thought as a child, spoke as a child, understood as a child. Like if it's in your words or if it's in your thoughts, something that you might still be doing right now might have come from something that is childish. We'll now call it childish, even if it's so painful, whatever. But it's being called like that vanity of childhood. So that is where the mastery begins, the emotional mastery. And the reason why it's such an impactful thing for me is because like there's so many things that I question myself. And then I realize, oh, I was led to this verse and other verses. And through understanding these chapters, this is when I realized that, oh, okay, so most of these things were like an emotional path that I took. And then I just need to change the trajectory. There's a certain other way. And and let me close with this. I'll close with the words of Solomon in Proverbs chapter 8. Wisdom does, all right, let's look at it together. Does wisdom not cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She stands at the top of the high places, by the way in the places of the paths. She cries at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in of the doors. Unto you, O man, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. O you simple, understand wisdom, and you fools be of an understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things, for my mouth shall speak truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness. There is nothing froward or perverse in them. They are all plain to him that understands, and right to them that find knowledge. Receive instruction, and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all things that may be desired are not compared to her. I, wisdom, dwell in prudence, and find out knowledge of witty inventions. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, arrogancy, and the evil way. And the froward mouth do I hate. Counsel is mine. Sound wisdom. I am understanding. I have strength. By me kings reign and princes decree justice. By me princes rule and nobles, even the judges of the earth. I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. Riches and honor are with me, yea, durable riches and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold, and my revenue than fine silver. I lead in the way of righteousness in the midst of the paths of judgment, the way that I may cause those that love me to inherit substance, and I will fill their treasures. The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning, or ever the earth was, where there were no depths. I was brought forth, and there was no fountains abounding with water. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills, I was brought forth, while as yet he had not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest part of the dust of the world. Then he prepared the heavens and was there, and he set a compass upon the face of the depth. When he established the clouds above, when he strengthened the mountains of the deep, and he gave the sea his decree, the waters should not pass his commandments, and the appointed foundations of the earth. Then I was by him as one brought up with him. I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him, rejoicing in the habitable part of the earth. In my delight and my delights were with the sons of men now. Therefore hearken unto me, O ye children, for blessed are they that keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, and refuse it not. Blessed is the man that hears me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whoso finds me finds life, and shall obtain favor of the Lord. But he that sins against me wrongs his own soul. All they all they that hate me love death. Okay. So this is the description of wisdom, right? So wisdom is describing herself and her attributes. So one thing that she says is that does wisdom not cry, and understanding put forth her voice. So she stands at the top of the high places by the way in the places of the paths. So it goes on after that. That's verse 1 and verse 2 in this whole chapter that I read the whole chapter. There's like a whole lot more to it. But it says that she's in the certain way, right? So this way is when we're expressing the motion in the word emotion, this way of doing things. So when you do things in a wise way, you're using this emotion of wisdom. This is the way. Does wisdom not cry? Does understanding not put forth her voice? So this cry and this voice is how wisdom speaks in the ways of feelings, in the ways of emotions. So it's also in the ways of experiences. So this is why, as a child, those experiences are emotional. They create certain feelings that create a certain pathway of doing things, because it was also the way in which something good or bad happened, whatever experience it is. But then it creates a certain way of looking at things. It creates a certain way of saying, in order to be wise in my life, this is the way I must do it. So you could see that somebody might have had something that happened in the past that affected emotions and feelings through that experience. And now they have a certain way of doing things. So now wisdom is saying, don't you hear me cry? Don't you hear me shout? There's a way that I can show you. And this way of wisdom is including this love and is including this emotional mastery. The reason why wisdom is included in here, and this is why I'm gonna stop here. It's because the way that wisdom was expressed in Solomon was in the way of him discerning the emotions of the different women who came to his judgment. When he was making the judgment, the way that the woman reacted is the way in which he was able to discern whose mother it was of the child. So this is where I'll stop here. Like I've gone over the emotional mastery from the emotional intelligence and the intelligence of the emotions comes from the feelings that we have, which is wisdom calling, which is wisdom crying. This emotion, this feeling, and our experiences, they create a way of looking at the world. And my prayer is that there'll just be like a renewal of the mind in the way we see things, the way we do things. The last time when I was speaking about emotional intelligence in the Bible, in the other life, like there's so many things that happened to me emotionally, so many emotions that were like hidden so deep, like yeah, so that's why I just had to come back to just make sure that that message is as clear as I can make it. And the video still exists if you didn't watch the emotional intelligence in the Bible. This is the emotional mastery part of it, which ties in with everything. So thank you so much, and I'm gonna see you soon. So I'll end here.